Everyone, we're going to be solving LeetCode 394 today, and this is decode string. So we're given an encoded string and we want to return the decoded string. So the encoding rule is that we have some number k, and inside these brackets we're going to have an encoded string, and this encoded string is going to be repeated k times. And so k is going to be a positive integer. Down here we have some stuff saying that the input string is always valid, there's no extra white spaces, the brackets are well formed, essentially saying that we don't have to check the input. All we have to do is worrying about giving the correct decoded string. And furthermore, we have the original data not containing digits that are in the wrong place. So for example, we can't have something like this because we need the brackets to be there. And we can't have something like this because the stuff inside these brackets is just a number. This 4 is missing its own brackets. So let's take a look at some examples so we can kind of get to understand the problem. So we have this example where we have 3 A's followed by 2 BC's. So as you can see down here, the A gets repeated 3 times and the BC gets repeated twice. This kind of shows us that there can be multiple characters inside the brackets. It's not always just one character. Down here we have another harder example. We have 3 of whatever's in here. Now what's in here? Well, we have an A followed by 2 C's. So what we end up with is ACC in here, and then we get 3 ACCs. So we have ACC, ACC, ACC. And down here we have 2 ABCs. So we have ABC, ABC, and then 3 CDs. So we have CD, 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 and then it's followed by an EF. And this kind of indicates to us that sometimes we're going to have some characters that aren't really inside any brackets. They're just sitting on their own. Same as up here, but maybe you didn't notice it with so much going on. So when we see this kind of problem, the first thing that we might want to think of is, well, we have opening and closing brackets. Let's try a stack solution. And that's going to be the approach that we're taking today. So I'm going to draw a diagram so that we can take a look at how we can solve this one with the stack. So over here, we can look at the first example for an easy question. So we have 3 and then A inside this bracket, and we have 2 BCs. So when we have this kind of structure that we're using a stack for, we're going to push every character that's not a closing bracket. And then when we get to a closing bracket, we know it's time to pop down to the opening bracket. So you might have seen this format in some other questions that involve opening and closing brackets and stack problems. So let's take a look at how the stack will work if we just have this kind of basic setup. So I'm going to draw the stack down here, and I'll draw it like this. So what we're going to have first is we're going to have a 3 pushed into here, and then an opening bracket, and then an A. Now we're going to get to the closing bracket, and this is going to tell us that we need to pop down all the way until we get to the 3 in the opening bracket. So what we're going to do is we're going to record what we've popped. So we've popped an A. Let's just put this over here for now. We can worry about naming it later. So we have an A, pop that. The opening bracket, we don't want the opening bracket to go in the return, so we actually don't record this. But now we get down to the 3. The opening bracket will tell us that the next one is the number. So we want to repeat this A 3 times. So you might be tempted at first just to build a return string down here separately, but we have to remember that we can actually have these brackets nested inside of each other, so we're not done with this yet. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to repeat whatever we've recorded over here and put it back into the stack. So we have just an A in here, and so we repeat the A 3 times. And we also want to pop this 3 after we're done with it. Now we have a 2, an opening bracket, and we have BC. Same thing as before, we read the end bracket, we pop everything out down to the 2, and we've recorded BC over here, and we pop the 2 off, and we want to repeat 2 BCs in the stack. So we'll have BC, BC, I'm losing space, so I'm just going to put it down here, BC, BC. So essentially, ignoring all the elements that have been popped, we'll have A, B, C, BC, which is exactly what we want. It's going to be in a stack here, so it's important to notice that we're going to have to convert it to a string at the end. Anyways, let's look at the next example so you can see how this works when we have nested brackets. So we have 3 A2 bracket C bracket bracket. So how is this approach going to look? It's actually going to be pretty easy. The way we planned it earlier kind of handles this nested case. So what we'll have here is we'll put a 3 in here, and then we'll have an open bracket, an A, 2, open bracket, C. Now we get to this closing bracket, and that tells us we need to pop down to the opening bracket and the number. So we'll record what we popped. We popped a C, pop that. We popped the opening bracket, but we're not going to record it. It doesn't go in the decoded string. And then we get our number. We need to repeat it twice. So we have our string C, and we need to repeat it twice and put it back in the stack. So we'll have C, C, and we can ignore that for now. Now we have another closed bracket, so we need to pop everything down to the other opening bracket. So what will we get? We'll get C, pop that, C, pop that. These are already popped, so we don't have to worry. Oh, sorry, and earlier we should have popped this too when we popped this opening bracket. And then we get the A, right? And then we get the opening bracket. We're not going to record that. And then we have a 3. So we want to repeat this whole thing 3 times and put it back in the stack. So we'll have A, C, C, A, C, C, and A, C, C. And notice that that's the string that we want to end up with. And our stack is, we're at the end of the string, so we don't have to do anything else. And we finished this. So the stack contains the answer. So let's try putting this into code. We're going to have a little bit of difficulties compared to just this diagram example because we have to work with strings, lists, and an integer for the repeat amount. So we have to be careful of these things. So let's worry about how we're going to do this now. So decode string. We'll just define our stack at the beginning. I'm going to be using an array. If I need to refer to the top, I'll use -1, and then I'll use append and pop to push and pop, respectively. And I'm actually going to be looping through the array without a for loop. I'm going to be using a while loop. This is because I'm going to mess with this I value later, which you'll see in a bit. So we're going to be looping through the string, and just to make things easy, I'm going to record the current char as C. So we have 3 cases. The first one is end of brackets. So we want to do if C is equal to here, and this is where we're going to be popping everything. I'm just going to write out the if statements for now, and we'll come back to that later. So, and then we have if there's a digit. I've seen some solutions to this handle this inside of this logic, but I actually kind of prefer it to do it this way because it kind of keeps our logic separate. And not everything is just crammed into this one if statement. So if there's a digit, we want to record it as an int in the array, and this will make some things easier for later when we need to know how many times we need to repeat it. And this is on the wrong tab, sorry. So we'll do if C is a digit, and then we'll have an else if statement here. And finally, otherwise, it's just a character. It's just another character we need to put on the stack. So we'll do else. So let's go actually bottom to top, and this is because the bottom is going to be the easiest, the top is going to be the hardest. And before I forget, we need to increment through the array. And now that I think about it, this is also on the wrong tab, sorry. I plus equals 1. So if it's just another character we have to put on the stack, we're just going to be appending it to the stack. It's not going to be too hard. This is going to be everything except for the closing bracket. And the digit's going to be put on the stack, but it's going to be put on the stack as an integer just to make things easier. So if there is a digit now, we want to figure out what the digit is going to be. And actually, these examples don't show exactly what we want, but essentially, all the integers in the S are in the range of 1 to 300. So actually, we can have multiple digits for the repeat value. And that's an important thing to know because a lot of people might just push this and just assume that's the amount of repeats. But if we have 2 digits in here and we only look at one of them, we're going to have some problems later. We're actually going to end up with some integers in our output. So we need to make sure to actually push the whole digit onto the stack so that we handle this correctly. So we want to find the end of the number. And what we're going to do is we're just going to have end index is equal to I, and I'm going to use Python array slicing and just convert it to an integer. I think that's the easiest way. So while the string at the end index is a digit, we want to increase the end. And now we'll end up where end is actually going to be at the index of an opening bracket. So our repeat value will just be the integer, and then we'll slice the array from I, which is the first digit we found, to end, which gets the last digit and ends right before the opening bracket. Now, this we're going to append this repeat value to the stack, so we have that for later. And it's actually important to notice that we need to set I separately over here, because if we just increase it by 1, we're going to be double counting, right? If we have this at 300 and we only increase I by 1, we're going to get another integer in the array, which is going to be 0, and then we're going to get another, which is 0. We want this to all be together as one entry in the array. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to set I to n minus 1. The reason I'm doing n minus 1 is because we have a plus 1 down here. And now that I think about it, actually, I think it's probably better to just increment these separately so we have the logic separate. So I is going to be equal to n. And then I'm going to actually include this in the other two cases, just to make things more clear. So I is going to be now at the opening bracket, and then we can handle it from there. Now here's the hard part, the end bracket. We need to pop everything off until we get the amount of times we need to repeat. So what I'm going to do to record what we're popping off is I'm actually going to use a dec. This is because I don't want to use strings because they're immutable. So curString is equal to dec. And while the top of the stack is not the opening bracket that we're looking for, we're going to keep popping and adding that to the current string that we're building up. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 in one line like this. We're going to do curString.append to left, because remember, we're building it from right to left since we're using a stack. And we're going to pop from the stack to get what we're putting into the left. So this is going to put everything into the current string. So for example, if we read this, we would put C in and then B in, but since we're using append left, it's actually going to end up being BC, which is what we want. So now we're going to convert that to a list. I'm not sure if this is the fastest way to do it, to be honest, this approach right here, but it kind of makes sense to me, so I'm going to roll with it. So now we need to realize that we still haven't popped off the opening bracket. So we need to pop off opening bracket as well, pop opening bracket as well. And just to add comments so it's easy to read, get string inside brackets, which will be kept in here. And so we need to pop off the opening bracket. And now we have, before the opening bracket, the number of times it's going to repeat. And we stored it as an integer earlier, so we actually don't have to worry about too much. So we'll do repeat is equal to stack.pop. Number of times to repeat is before opening bracket. And now all we want to do is we want to add to the stack that current string multiplied by the number of times we need to repeat. So we'll do stack.extend, because remember, this is a list. And we're going to do curString times repeat. And now that I think about it, maybe we don't have to use this line right here. I'm not sure if this functionality works with the dec, but let's try it and see, because that's going to take O of n time, which we don't really want. So now if we have everything good down here, we can just return the stack. But remember, we need to return a string, so we're going to use empty string.joinStack. So let's see if this works. Oh, sorry, and I forgot to increment I by 1 down here, because I'm doing it separately every case. So now let's try that. And as you can see, we have this accepted, which is perfect. Sorry for the hiccups along the way. If you want to increment I out here separately or do some small differences in the implementation, it might be better. This is just a solution that made sense to me, so I'd like to make a video about it. Thank you for watching.